to my channel. Today's video is going to be 5 ways to take your beauty photography to the next level. So I've had a bit of a think about this for a while, and I've thought of some ways that I feel can really lift your work when it comes to beauty photography specifically. And as that's the area that I do specialize in at the moment, I'd like to go a little bit deeper into it and tell you guys how you can kind of lift your work if that's what you're looking at getting into with studio photography. So beauty is a little bit different to your usual portrait photography. Beauty has a lot to do with being a little bit closer in and really highlighting the makeup on the model's face or the skincare or whatever product you're wanting to really technically sell, and even just highlighting the model's features in the best way possible. So without further ado, I'm going to get straight into the video and tell you guys how you can lift your beauty photography to the next level with these 5 simple tips. Tip number 1 is to get in a bit closer. Now, I think a lot of photographers are guilty of this. Sometimes we really want to have a composed shot that is a little bit further back. We don't always think to step in a little bit further. Me personally, I've always liked to do portraiture throughout my fashion photography career, and sometimes I actually forget to step backwards and actually show an entire outfit. But as this is beauty photography that we're talking about, if you can get a little bit closer in, particularly with a macro lens, this will really give your work a very different look and really start to guide you into beauty photography. Macro photography is really interesting, and I think the more that you experiment with it, the more creative you really get with it. And it's interesting to zoom in either on the eyes or the lips or even just on the skin tone and highlight freckles or the skin in general, and really just zoom in onto the model's face and get that different angle or different look that you really want with your photography. So I would definitely recommend getting a bit closer with your shots and really showing a different side to your photography that way. Tip number 2 is to try a different composition. Now this one, I think a lot of people struggle with beauty photography because you do have, I think, a little bit less to work with in terms of composing your photos. You're so close in a lot of the time, and it's hard to get that different look. So that's why my first tip was to get in a little bit closer and not so far back. I think with this tip, the important thing to remember here is to really try and experiment with different angles of the model's face. So maybe down below, up from above, and really trying to get them to do posing that really would complement a different composition. So my favorite beauty photography composition at the moment doesn't actually sound that great. It kind of involves shooting up the model's nose, and I've talked about this before, and a lot of people do tend to struggle with this kind of shot. So I find the best way to take this image is a little bit from below, so maybe at about a 45-degree angle from below the model, and getting her or him to tilt their face just slightly on an angle and looking down into the camera lens. I think that's the best way that I can try and explain that shot. But I definitely feel like this shot is very popular at the moment. It's very popular especially in commercial photography, commercial beauty photography. So if you're looking at getting into that style of work, I definitely recommend looking at doing that sort of style of composition with your next photo shoot, because this is a really good way to show off the makeup as well as it's showing most of the eyelid and the model looking down into the camera lens, so you can really get a good view of the makeup that way. Tip number 3 is to start dodging and burning. So I would recommend to use frequency separation most definitely throughout a lot of different genres of photography. However, I feel when it comes to beauty photography and doing very up close shots, I personally feel that dodge and burn is the best way to go, and it really does give your work that professional edge. So I'd really highly recommend, if you guys haven't checked it out already, I do have a few tutorials down below. I've listed in the description box, and I've already got a few tutorials on dodging and burning and how that can affect the skin tone, and basically just how to manage your workflow with that. So I really highly recommend, if you haven't started dodging and burning already, try it out for your next photo shoot and see what results you come up with, because I know when I tried it for the first time, I've pretty much never looked back from that moment in time, because I felt like the vibe that it gave the image and just the professional finish that I had afterwards just really looked good. And not the frequency separation doesn't have power to do that. It's just that sometimes with frequency separation, you're not getting that texture and you're not retaining that texture that you need all the time. So I definitely prefer dodge and burn as that method, but if you are using frequency separation and you prefer that method, that's totally fine as well. My 4th tip would be to start using a reflector as catch lights in your model's eyes. So if you don't have a very big lighting setup, if you don't have a lot of lights, this is a really great way to add a little bit more life into the model's eyes, particularly with studio portrait photography. So I always use the reflector just underneath the model's face, or sort of like at an angle, but underneath the chin at some sort of angle that way. And then it really allows for the light to be bounced back into the model's eyes and gives it that extra catch light. So that's why I really prefer to use a reflector sometimes. And sometimes you don't need an extra light for that. Sometimes an extra light can be too much light, can be too much overall. So sometimes a reflector is the best way to go. It's very easy and it's a cheap and affordable way to basically add that extra element into your beauty photography, and I highly recommend it. And my fifth tip for today is to start using luminosity masks for color grading. Now I really do recommend this, and I do have a couple of tutorials. I've got one listed down in the description box below again. If you haven't seen that luminosity mask tutorial for color grading, definitely go and check it out because I do explain pretty much how to do it, and once again how to manage your workflow with that. So luminosity masks basically take parts of the image that are highlighted or in the shadows and really help split up the image into those types of layers where you can work with color grading a little bit more specifically. I do use this with adjustment layers in Photoshop, and I really find it's a great technique to get that professional finish and that professional look with color grading on your images. It can be a little bit more time consuming and a little bit more tricky to master, but I do feel that that's one of the best ways to color grade your images, particularly when it's up close, because I do find that people struggle with color grading when it's that close into the model's face. And I have also had those issues before when I've started doing color grading, when I started beauty photography. And I really didn't know how to color grade the model's face because so much of it is skin tone as well, and you have to kind of keep that intact to an extent. So I really do recommend color grading with luminosity masks because you can kind of skirt around it that way, and you can actually be very specific with where you place the coloring on the image. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video and you did learn something new from it. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do. I will be posting more videos very soon. I know it's been a little while since I've been doing a little bit more consistent work on YouTube, and I have been in Bali and then came back to Melbourne and then moved to Sydney again. So it's been a very, very long 2 months, but I'm really hoping to get more content out there soon. If there's anything in particular you would like to see next in my videos, let me know in the comments section below. I am asking quite often on Instagram as well, so if you have any ideas, feel free to shoot them to me over there as well. Thanks again guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!